Okay, so today we're going on another deep dive, and this time we're looking at Journey to the West.
Okay.
Um, and specifically, we're going to be talking about one specific story from Journey to the West.
Right.
And that is the story of the Yellow Eyebrow Demon King
Oh,
in
yeah.
his Little Thunderclap Monastery.
I like that one.
Yeah, so, for anyone listening who maybe isn't familiar with Journey to the West, it's this classic Chinese novel
It's a classic.
about this Buddhist monk who is going on this, epic pilgrimage to India to get Buddhist scriptures.
Right.
And it's just full of all these, really fantastical trials and tribulations that you have to go through.
Yeah.
But this particular story is really interesting, I think, because the antagonist in this story is not just some, average run-of-the-mill monster. Instead, he's this mischievous being who actually has ties to the highest power in Buddhist cosmology.
Right.
So I think it's a really...
Buddha himself.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really interesting story.
Yeah. So how do we want to...
So maybe we can start by just kind of setting the stage a little bit.
Sure.
Who is this Yellow Eyebrow Demon King?
So, yeah, he's this really fascinating character. And as you mentioned, he was an attendant to Buddha, but, something happened somewhere along the line where he kind of strayed from the path, and he's now causing all this chaos with his self-made little thunderclap monastery.
Yeah, and this monastery, it's not like a real monastery. It's like a...
Yeah, it's like a deceptive, like an imitation.
It's almost like a honey trap in a way. It's like he's trying to lure people in.
Yeah, he's luring these unsuspecting travelers into this place that looks like a sacred place, but is actually... really dangerous.
Yeah, and it kind of sets the tone for the whole story because there's a lot of trickery involved.
Yeah, for sure.
And you were saying he has some really powerful magic.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, he's got these two weapons that are incredibly powerful.
Okay.
There's the golden symbol, which is this giant bowl, basically, and anyone who steps inside it gets imprisoned.
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, anyone, even someone as powerful as the Monkey King.
Yeah, I was going to say, how is he crapping anyone?
Right.
When the Monkey King is with him?
Exactly. But that's how powerful this thing is.
Okay.
And then the other one he's got is called the human seed bag.
Okay, the human seed bag. What's that?
Yeah, so this one is a mystical pouch. And when he uses it, he can suck people up into it.
Oh, wow.
And it's basically like a bottomless void.
So they're just gone.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the story makes it seem pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, that's a little intense for me, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those stories that even though it's, part of this kind of fun adventure story, it's also got these really dark elements to it.
Right.
But that's part of what makes it so interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of like raising the stakes because we're talking about the Monkey King.
Right.
Supposedly the most powerful.
He can basically do anything.
Warrior there. So if he's getting trapped by this guy, how is...
Well, that's the thing, right?
Anyone else supposed to survive this?
You would think that the Monkey King would be able to just smash his way out of any situation. But that's what I think is so clever about this story, is that it's showing us that, strength isn't always the answer.
Right.
The Monkey King charges in there. He doesn't think things through.
Right.
He's not very strategic.
He's all brawn and no brains.
Exactly. And so he falls right into the Meal King's trap.
Right.
And I think that's one of the big messages here, is that brains can sometimes be more powerful than brawn.
Yeah, definitely. So they're in this perilous situation. How do they actually get out of this?
So that's where another really powerful figure comes in.
Oh, okay.
The Maitreya Buddha.
Oh, wow.
And so he's a Buddha figure who, in Buddhist tradition, is actually the future Buddha.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this is a really powerful being.
Yeah.
And he could probably just come in there and overpower the Yellow Eyebrow Demon King.
Right.
But he doesn't do that. Instead, he takes this really clever approach.
Okay.
He uses a special robe that he has to basically outwit the demon.
Oh, okay.
He tricks the demon into getting inside the robe, and then the robe transforms into this magic bag and traps him.
Okay. So it's like he's using the Demon King's own trickery against him.
Exactly, yeah. He's using his wisdom and his cleverness to outsmart this really powerful adversary.
I mean, that's really interesting to me that the future Buddha would even have to resort to trickery. I mean, isn't that kind of...
That's a great point, yeah.
Ironic, or does that...
And that's actually one of the things that I think is so fascinating about this story.
Okay.
Is that it raises these really interesting questions about the nature of good and evil.
Okay.
And what means are justified when you're fighting against something that's bad.
Right.
on one hand, it shows that sometimes you do need to use your wits.
Right.
And you need to be strategic and maybe even a little bit tricky
Yeah.
to overcome certain obstacles. But it also raises questions about, does the end justify the means?
Right. Yeah. Is it okay to kind of bend the rules even if you're doing it for the right reasons?
Exactly. And I don't think there's an easy answer to that question.
Right.
But I think it's something that this story really makes us think about.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got this whole brains over brawn theme happening, but it seems like there are other things going on in this story too, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think another really big takeaway here is this idea of cosmic justice.
Okay.
The fact that the Yellow Eyebrow Demon King, even though he was connected to Buddha,
Right.
he still faces consequences for what he did.
Right. So nobody's above the law.
Exactly. Even in the celestial realm,
Right.
actions have repercussions.
Yeah, that's
And I
true.
think that's a really important message.
Yeah, and I think it's also really interesting how even though the Monkey King,
Yeah.
he's this incredibly powerful warrior.
He's like the main hero of the story.
Right, but he still needs help
Right. He can't do it alone.
from this higher power to actually
Exactly.
accomplish this goal. And I think that's a really good reminder for all of us that, teamwork is important, even if you're
For sure.
super powerful.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to recognize that you can't do everything on your own.
Right.
And it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, I think that's a really good takeaway from this.
Definitely.
It's just amazing how much stuff is packed into
I know. It's great.
one story from Journey to the West.
It's such a rich text.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool is that
Yeah.
it makes you kind of think about your own life. Like, when I was reading this, I was thinking about that whole thing with the little Thunderclap Monastery and how it's like this false temple.
Right.
And it made me wonder, what are some false temples that we might encounter in our own lives? Are there any beliefs or ideologies or even people that we sort of accept without really questioning them? And then later on down the line, we realize,
Oh, yeah.
maybe that wasn't what it seemed.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's just something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great question for all of us to consider.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for going on this deep dive with me.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And for everyone listening, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.